I am Kuan Yin Lam. In this video, I will reflect upon my instruction strategy used in micro-teaching and task design for a pre-writing lesson. This pre-writing lesson is designed for a class of primary 3 students who are advanced learners. The topic of the lesson is cooking experience. For their previous knowledge, they have learned about the basic structure and language features of recount, and how to use simple past tense to write recount, and how to use 5W1H technique to brainstorm ideas. Meanwhile, there are 2 major learning objectives. First, students are able to identify the basic structure and language features of personal recount. Second, students are able to organize ideas of a writing in a coherent way with the usage of text diagram. In order to achieve these learning objectives, 2 main learning activities are included in this pre-writing lesson. First, it is the text deconstruction of recount under teacher's scaffolding. Second, it is to teach students how to organize ideas of a writing in a coherent way with the usage of a text diagram. To start with, I would like to talk about the strengths of my lesson. First, it is the provision of text diagram to organize students' information. On the screen, the text diagram worksheets are shown. These text diagram worksheets provide a strategic framework for organizing students' work and scaffolding students' writing in the planning stage. It serves several major benefits. First, it helps students prioritize the elements and writing goal. Second, it develops students' ability to structure paragraphs and group ideas. Overall speaking, it efficiently reduces the complexity of writing and the cognitive strain during the while writing stage. It further improves the writing quality of students. What's more, text diagram as a procedural facilitator has been shown consistently to improve writing of students with learning disability. Therefore, text diagram is of great essence in the pre-writing stage of a writing lesson. Also, within the teaching process for the text diagram, there is an explicit purpose for the activity and gradual scaffolding which facilitates students' learning. Now, I will show the video in which I was micro-teaching how should we use text diagram to build a well-organized essay. But due to time limit, I will not show the entire teaching process, but part of it. Also, due to some technical problems, a part of the video is buried. I'm sorry about that. Diagram, and we can apply it in our writing up stage. So here the paper, fill in the text diagram by yourself. You should also do it like me, and then after you fill in all the answer, it will be very easy for you to write a complete paragraph or stanza by yourself. A model text, there are 2 characters. The first one is Mabel. So I do this one as the model for you. Let's read. So Mabel, what did she do? She apologized. Why did she apologize? Because she forgot about the toast. How about Jack? Can you guys give me the answer? What did he do?
He yelled at her madly.
Yeah, excellent. Within the video, I attempt to set up a clear purpose for the task and to use scaffolding, which includes 3 steps. First, modeling. Second, teacher and student co-construction. Third, student bring home the text diagram worksheet and work on their own. According to the previous research, students are more motivated to learn if they are well informed about the purpose and learning intention of the task, maximizing the learning effectiveness. Meanwhile, scaffolding, the gradual release of activity, can provide for a supportive, welcoming, and caring learning environment in which student learning effectiveness can be heightened. Students have more active roles in their own learning. Students share the responsibility of teaching and learning through scaffolding that requires them to move beyond their current skill and knowledge level. Second strength of my micro-teaching is to cater for diversified student needs. As shown on the screen, there is the design of 2 sets of worksheets for different students' level. The worksheet designed for weaker students provide more vocabulary items for writing and explicit L1 translation for some difficult words. In view of current educational context, heterogeneity in classes is an important issue that we need to address nowadays. For example, in a language classroom, there are students of diversified learning proficiency and hence a divergence in instructional needs. Research shows that it is important for language teachers adjusting their teaching materials to support individual students' learning and further increase the effectiveness of learning processes. It is of great essence for students to tailor-make learning materials which best suits learners' current level, so to sustain their internal drive to learn. Moving on, let's talk about the weakness of formal micro-teaching. First, there is rather weak and unclear verbal instruction. Before we start, let's watch a video in which I taught students the text deconstruction part.
Which elements are within a personal recount? How about stanza 2? Stanza 2. Events describes in order.
Okay, so within the video, you can see that there is a weak instruction and a lack of guidance for the worksheet. In the result, students do not know what they are expected to do in the task. Asking primary 3 students to identify different stages of a text type on their own is a demanding task for them. Demonstration and a step-by-step guidance are required in this case. For example, when I ask students to identify which state the stanza 1, which is the introduction of the passage and gives background information of the passage, belong to, I should guide them by asking more display questions like, does it tell us who was involved in the cooking process? And does it tell us what kind of events was going to take place? It helps students identifying what kind of information is involved in the first stanza. Then, we can generalize what the stanza 1 serves for. With better verbal instruction, it can increase students' attentiveness in class and elicit more responses from students, maximizing their learning effectiveness. Moreover, there are oversaturated filler words like are and am used by myself within the teacher talking. Student will often direct his or her attention from the content of the speech to the use of filler words. Therefore, there is a bad influence upon the listener's comprehension upon the knowledge delivered. I need to reduce the usage of filler words by rehearsing more and making myself more confident about teaching. The second weakness is unable to create a student-centered classroom. Within the lesson, I take most of the time for teacher talking. Also, I always ask some display questions which result in teacher ask, student respond situation. The language classroom is rather boring as I dominate the classroom. In this case, students will be demotivated to learn. It is important to create a student-centered classroom in order to increase students' learning motivation and facilitate peer learning. Student-centered and engaging activities should be included. For instance, when checking the answer for the text deconstruction worksheet, I can allow some advanced students to take up the role of teacher and teach the rest of the class. And I can provide evaluative feedback after his or her explanation. Also, different questioning strategies can be employed in the teaching process. For example, it is the bounce questioning strategy. The teacher can pose a question to the little teacher and bounce the response of that student to another student. This method can help establish a more interactive and student-centered classroom, which is beneficial to students' learning. Last, within the group micro-teaching video taking, I have learned from others 2 things. First, is how to build a well-organized verbal instruction on an activity. It should include a brief introduction of what we have learned in the previous lesson, which will help to build a smooth transition between one activity to another activity. And it also include an explicit and clear instruction on the activity with emphasis on the key point and side-by-side instruction in the gradual scaffolding process. Second, it's important to always take students' response into consideration when you are teaching. Students' response is an important immediate feedback upon your teaching effectiveness. For example, like, are you talking too fast? Or are you having a poor explanation upon some difficult theory? I cannot just teach everything according to the lesson plan. Instead, I need to be flexible in teaching. I need to modify the teaching, such as lowering the difficulty level of the task, if necessary. I have gained a lot of insight upon task design and instructional strategies through this precious micro-teaching chance and reflection. Thanks for your attention. Goodbye.